How's everyone doing this morning? Um, it looks like a nice day out here, but it's nice and sunny. It's 38 with a wind chill of 31, so it's pretty chilly out here. Um, some Realtor.com. 1.2 million homeowners can't keep up with mortgage payments. New report finds due to high cost and high fuel prices and the economy worsening. So, from last week where they had 900,000 FHA, they were just calling FHA people. Now it's 1.2 million households. So it's sorry about that. Let me get some coffee. Ooh, cold. It's this thing just keeps getting worse, and it's not going to get better. I've been warning people for the last several years about this. There have been people that try to debunk what I've been saying, and now all the data is finally coming out, and they can't hide it any longer. Just like there's a lot of places that once, that they were listed. They couldn't get them sold, so they took them off the market to try to hide the days on the market. Then they'll relist it to make it look like a new listing. Even if they put it at the same price, it doesn't change the days on market, because you got to go back and check it when it was on, didn't sell, how long that was on versus what it is now. Excuse me. Ooh. I need to eat something. I'm starving. That's why I got all the acid coming up. It's like, hey, feed me. But that's the thing, and there's a lot of properties that these people are like, oh, well, there's only this many properties for sale they dropped. A lot of places have fallen off the MLS because when a property goes into foreclosure, the homeowner, or I will say the home occupier, no longer owns the house. So the listing gets pulled, and it's going to be going back to the bank, and then of course it will go back on the MLS eventually, because it has to go through back to the bank, foreclose on, it goes to sheriff's sale. If no one at the sheriff's sale buys it, the bank will buy it back. Then they'll end up relisting the property, and this is how the GFC started. It was the same thing, and then it just kept piling up, and then one day just boom, like, oh, well, things, they went from things are good to things are bad, and it's the same crap. But the thing with these houses that can't keep up with their payments because of their escrow, fuel prices, inflation, and all that. Now, you add that number to the amount of properties that these private shadow banks, these equity firms, like BlackRock, Blue Owl Capital. Now, the private stuff, when the defaults get there, they're pretty much there, like where they're going to start liquidating stuff. But you add all the properties that these places also, that the private ones have, on top of the ones that are not owned by private equity, it's going to flood the actual housing market. And then, like I said before, you'll have people that are doing fine, and they've got their house listed on the the MLS, and let's say that they're asking $300,000 for their house, and then when you start getting the flow of these properties, and you'd be surprised who's in debt. People post on Facebook that how good life is. We got nice stuff and all that, and they're literally living paycheck to paycheck. I call them $2 millionaires, because they try to make themselves look like a millionaire. But you'll see them go into foreclosure. But the people with the houses, like I'm selling a house for $300,000, and then you start getting houses pop up, same type of house, same value, but they're starting to sell those for 175 because they're forced to liquidate it. Could be a short sale. Could be where enough properties in that area get onto the market, and it forces the rest of them down. And like I got mine listed at 300, and let's say I owe 250 on it. Well, I can't sell the house for what they're selling theirs for, so I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to take a loss, come to the closing table with money to get out of the mortgage, keep the house, or whatever. But that's you're gonna see all this. It's gonna be a big repeat. There was another report in here. Let's see here. This was from Realtor.com also. Says Feds will not cut rate at all in 2026, as Powell says inflation impacts of Iran war remains unclear. The Feds can't lower rates, because if they lower the rates, it's going to cause the inflation just to go right back up again. To be honest, in my opinion, they didn't raise rates high enough this last time. They should have raised them to 8-9%. That would have got rid of the inflation, like very, very fast. Yeah, it was going to hurt a lot of stuff, but you're going to get inflation down real quick. And I mean, me personally, I foresee us having some deflation. The government does not like that. Companies don't like that, because that means, like, for instance, where was it here? Now, this was from the New York Times. New vehicle sales declined by roughly 7% the first quarter of 2026. Well, we're in April, so we're in the second quarter now. So they've already declined. Okay, finish further reading. Making the largest drop since mid-2022, driven by high interest rates, elevated prices, and reduced consumer demand. Major automakers like GM, Ford, Toyota reported significant drops. Come on, phone, stay on. With March sales falling 14% to what they were March of 2025, last year. I noticed when I'm on Facebook scrolling, the automakers, they're in trouble. They're offering, I seen one from Chevy. This was on their heavy duties, the 3/4 tons and the 1 tons. It was 3.9% for 60 months, and $1,000 I don't know, cash off or whatever the hell they was offering. And then GM was doing 4.9 on theirs. I remember in 2010 I bought an F-150 XLT crew cab. It wasn't all the bells and whistles, but it was a pretty nice truck. The sticker price on it was $39,000 and change. The dealership sold it to me for 36. I think it was 36 and change. And then I got rebates from Ford, and it was trash truck. It totaled out to where it was like $12,000 off the price of the truck. So $12,000, dollars off of 39. That was a 25% deduction in the price. Now, you won't see the sticker price ever drop. They'll never do that. I don't think they'll ever do that. I was going to put it that way. So what they do is they'll offer rebates like they did back then, because that was right after they did that cash for clunkers, and that whole program was a joke. But they can't take too much of a loss. Like if I'm not mistaken, where I was reading, GM is mainly owned by the union, but Ford's not, and they're gonna be forced to have to drop these prices, like with the incentives, which means that the workers are not going to be able to get a raise, because if the company's not making any money, they're not going to give you a raise. If they're not making any money, they're not going to go make themselves go bankrupt just so that the union guys can get paid. It won't happen. They'll go on wage freezes. I remember when the GFC happened, there were places that were taking pay cuts, and you either took the pay cut and kept your job, or you didn't and you got laid off, and then you got your unemployment. Of course, back then they let you draw unemployment for 2 years. It was nuts, but yeah, 2 years you could draw unemployment for. So there were people that were, generally you can only draw them for 6 months. They were drawing them for 2 years. They were just doing whatever, kind of like that COVID money, just take off and go, wherever you got to go. But this is just it's continuing to get worse, and it's not going to change. I don't care what your data shows. This is what's happening, and it's like a slow train crash, but it's almost like you're on a roller coaster, and we finally got the last car over the ledge, and it's picking up steam as it goes, because as more time passes, this stuff just keeps compounding, and it just boom, 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 and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now here's a good one here. I've mentioned that here in Ohio we are trying to eliminate property taxes, and says here Ohio's property tax repeal could mean a 20% sales tax. Our Governor DeWine warns. That's fine. I don't buy a lot of stuff, so you having a higher sales tax is not going to affect me. The thing with the sales tax is all these places are going to have to operate within their means, and if your checking account starts running low, then you got to start shutting stuff down. You got to start eliminating agencies and stuff like that. I don't care. I'm all about smaller government, and I'm tired of people paying property taxes. Hell, I'm tired of it. I mean, my mom, she's been retired now for, how old is Mom? Mom's 73. So, she retired at 62. So she's been paying property taxes for the last 11 years. And her taxes down there in Florida is crazy compared to what they are up here. And she lives in a trailer. So here's some other ones in here I was reading. Oh, yeah. Restaurants, sales are falling. And this is from, who was this from? The New York Times? No, some, I don't know, some company. I saw one of these reports on YouTube, and that they've been falling. I mean, that's nothing new. I mean, prices have went up on everything. So yeah, you're spending more, but you're not getting more for what you're spending. You're getting the same amount, if not less. I mean, when we go to McDonald's, and we see the portion sizes have gotten smaller, the drink sizes have gotten smaller, but they're blaming it on high gas prices. Well, no, it's everything. I mean, your grocery prices have went up, and they're getting worse now. Especially with the fertilizer issue, and the report, that there's farmers that's getting all their equipment repossessed. If they don't have equipment to plant, then that area is not going to get planted. So there will be a crop shortage, which will cause the grain prices of ones that can do it to go up. So the farmers that are able to make it, they're going to make a lot of money. But a lot of them, these fields are going to sit empty. You're going to see a lot of livestock get auctioned off because these farmers that's living beyond their means. That's all it is. They didn't prepare for nothing, and have been living beyond their means. And don't be surprised you start to see a lot of this farm ground get foreclosed on. Because people that they're out buying all this big, expensive, fancy equipment, and things were good. When they were giving out all that government handout money from COVID. And they were all used to that. Oh, well, don't worry, we get this extra money coming in. Well, all that stuff's dried up. There were people taking out SBA loans, and they were legitimate businesses, and they were just, oh, well, we're going to take a trip, you're supposed to use that for your business. Oh, well, we're going to write this off as a business expense. Okay, whatever. You already know they're going to fail. But those are just some reports I've seen. I'm going to have to kind of cut this short. My claim adjuster's finally coming. He's in town doing some of his work. So he's going to look at my truck where that guy hit it with his big ass toy hauler. And like I said, it was $10,500 of repairs. I went and got the estimates just from him hitting it, because he drugged my truck sideways, like literally 2 feet. He when he drug it, it twisted my steering. Because I mean, his camper had that big toy hauler, not toy hauler. He had a big fifth wheel camper, but it had all these slide outs. And I'm gonna bet you that thing probably weighed 15,000 pounds, if not 20, because he had a big dually he was pulling it with. And that was the couple I told you that sold their house in Indiana. So it was him, her, and their 2 kids living in it, and they were just living around Florida, staying around campgrounds. But what to see what happens out of this. And but other than that, I'll get back on here and make another video. But I'm waiting on my guy to show up, and he should be here in a minute. So stay tuned, guys. Like my video. You guys share my video and like it, and subscribe to my page. That's the best thank you can give me. I'm still trying to get my numbers up. And speak of the devil, here he is. So I'll catch you guys next time.